Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the end of day 8 at the VID21 conference. We've had an absolutely fascinating day of everything related to your life today. And we've heard from Suzanne Hunter, who shared with us about radical self-care. And now we're diving in to a wonderful discussion about your life plan with Shannah Kennedy. Shannah is a leading business and life coach and a master strategist, trusted by her clients across the spectrum of business, sport, and entertainment. She challenges people to rethink their relationships to work, well-being, and life. We work to discover who you really are without the title. Shannah is currently working with a mix of C-suite executives, clients in transition and or suffering from burnout, business owners and high potential staff. She coaches the gap between where you are today and where you aspire to be in the future. She also supports people who feel exhausted and need a new map. Her best-selling book, The Life Plan, is the basis of her transformative approach developed over 20 years working with people seeking more meaningful lives. She is recognised as one of Australia's most influential life coaches, featured in the Australian Financial Review, Huffington Post, the Sydney Morning Herald and Thrive Global. She has co-authored 4 books on global presence, Chaos to Calm, Restore, Shine and Ignite. Welcome, Shannah. Thank you so much for taking us on this journey this evening. I know from a lot of viewers of VIDs so far that where we're going and where they want their life to go is super important to them at the moment. So thank you for sharing this session with us.
Fantastic. And thanks for having me here today. I'm super excited because, my question to you are, who are you without your job? And the life plan is a really important part of our strategy as we develop a life plan that runs alongside our career plan. But I thought I would share a little bit with you of, how we sort of came to here today to be talking about the life plan. So I wanted to share a little bit of my journey with you. I started in stockbroking in the late 80s. I wanted to be Gordon Gekko. I thought that sounded exciting and fun and fast and furious, and I'm going to make great money and all of those kind of things. And I realized that a girl in that situation, being a female in that industry in the late 80s, was really not a wonderful place to be. It really was a little bit like the Wolf of Wall Street, unfortunately. So I left there and I got a job with Bolle Sunglasses as their sponsorship manager. And I had 200 of the country's best athletes. And my job was like Jerry Maguire. It was flying around to sporting events. It was 7 days a week. I loved my job. I married my job, as we can all identify with at some stage that we've done that. I went to every after party possible, and I had no self-care strategy whatsoever. And, I think a lot of people at the moment feel quite burnt out. And that's what I've really hearing around the traps and in the corporate world, that we have this incredible burnout. We haven't had holidays. We haven't had breaks. We've taken work home. We now have this huge blend. We've had to adapt every week last year, basically, to breaking news on a daily basis. And so people have got this exhaustion, and that's what I was feeling just working 7 days a week in my late 20s. And it ended up in chronic fatigue. So I lost my health in my late 20s, which 20 years later, now at 50, I'm still dealing with. So who here feels like they don't have a plan for themselves, a plan for their life? Remember that you're the business. So it's, Julia Incorporated or Lani Incorporated or Shannah Incorporated. What we do as a job, that is what we do. That's not who we are. So if you feel like you're a passenger on the treadmill, type it in the chat. Let's get a little bit interactive here. If this is you and this is how you're feeling at the moment, where you've got those signs of burnout, those signs of exhaustion, it really is time to stop and take a breath and really have a look at how you're feeling and decide, how do you want to feel in 2021? What is the plan for you? So for me, I had to take charge because my health was taken away. I had to stop the blame game of, oh, it's my work's fault. It's my job position's fault. I had no plan for myself. I just completely slaughtered myself, and really was married to the job. So I had to take myself back into that driver's seat. And when I was really ill and in bed for a year with chronic fatigue and depression, I thought about all of our athletes. And as we are a sporting nation, as you all know, what happens to athletes when they lose their job or they get injured or they get dropped from the team or they don't fit in anymore or their body lets them down? What happens is they go from hero to zero overnight. And they've identified themselves as the footballer or the cricketer or the volleyballer or the cyclist for so long, they actually don't know who they are. And what I want to talk to you about today is how we build ourselves as a strong, calm, confident human being as we move forward. So it doesn't matter what's happening out there in the world, we always know how to come home to self and take the reins and move forward. So I studied life coaching 20 years ago when nobody had heard of it and said, why the hell would you be a life coach and leave your corporate job? But I wanted to coach those athletes into retirement. And as I was studying, I really found that nobody really had learnt life and wellness skills as a skill set that's just as important as marketing skills or sales skills or any of those skills that we're learning in the corporate arena or in your job. Is how do we protect the asset, which is yourself? You know, you are the asset and no one else is going to care for you but yourself, as you sort of heard earlier today. So I started to study, I started to coach, I started to speak around the globe on life skills and the importance of having a life plan and why it's so important. And then wrote the book, The Life Plan, that's available at the moment in Kmart and all good bookstores, and then started writing a whole heap of other books, like how do we get this into the world? And also remembering to have fun along the way. I had taken my life way, way too seriously. And how do we just lighten up a little bit again? And I think after a year of COVID, everyone is really stuck in their serious side. And we need to open the door to that lightness and focus on what's most important to us. So we always start by going back to the powerful question, which you could ask yourself every single day. When you want to build a life plan, build your purpose for today, what is the most important thing in your life right now? And you can type it in the chat if you wish, because when we come back to that, we can gain perspective on everything else. What is the most important thing in the world to you today? So that's how we start. Who are you? Go back to self. For those that said family or those that are listening that think family, it is how are you showing up for your family? Are you being the person, the inspiration, the energy, the lightness, the joy, the positive person in that family? How are you showing up? A lot of people will always say, I wish I had more time. I wish I felt more joyful. I wish I felt lighter. What do we really, really want right now is the second question. So if you think about just sitting there for a moment and taking a breath and saying, what do I really want right now? Funnily enough, a lot of people say, I want more time. If anyone there feels they want more time, we get 72 blocks of 20 minutes every single day that we can play with. So how can we use that time? Thanks for sharing, Lani, to travel and see friends and family safely. Yeah, it's an incredible thing that was taken away from us, but isn't it wonderful that we've really embraced technology and Zooming and FaceTimes and doing all of these things that maybe weren't available or we were too fearful of in the past. So I think it's really important to think, what do I really want right now? And how do I want to feel this year? So I've always asked my clients, how do you want to feel this year? And for me personally, I want to feel light. I want to feel vibrant. I want to feel energetic. And so every day, that is the brain training that comes in. Lightness, energetic. Am I approaching my work with joy, with energy, with lightness? Am I thinking about how to reinvent things with energy and joy and lightness, or am I thinking it's all too much? So thinking about how you train your brain is really important as you start to build your life plan. Is what is the mental chatter that's sort of going on? The second thing is, once you come back to self, and you really come back to self, that's your foundation of what's most important to you. At the same time, we need to build the home base, which is your own set of values. So thinking about you're building a house, we need to pour the concrete foundation, and they're your set of values that are unique to you. And when we move forward, we want to think about what are our top 3 values that are our foundation. So think about 3 words that really resonate with you. So I'll give you an example. My number 1 value is health. Now, health doesn't mean do you feel great when you wake up every morning. Health is, do I feel healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? There are 4 pillars to our health. So that's the boss every day. What am I doing every single day for my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, and my spiritual health? Before I go to work, that's the boss. The second one for me is family. And that means, am I showing up for my family? Am I being a fun and inspiring wife? Am I being a warm and nurturing mum? Am I being there for my clients with no judgment and plenty of energy? So that's what that happiness means to me. And the third one for me is achievement. I am the A-type overachieving perfectionist. So achievement to me is really important to make me feel happy and like I'm progressing forward and that I'm on the move. However, what does that do to your health when you're an achievement junkie? Is, your health takes the dive down. So achievement now has to mean for me, what is on your to-do list that is self-care, that gives you longevity in your career, that stops you from burning out. So I'd love to ask you, what is your non-negotiable every day that helps you stay energetic at your best? Because your 20-year-older self on your life plan is telling you to take a breath, to pace yourself, that we don't have to do absolutely everything today on the to-do list, that the to-do list is going to be with you for the rest of your life. So when we think about a life plan, we want to think 20 years ahead and think of your 20-year-older self. If you think about how old you're going to be in 20 years, and think about what is that person telling you to do today? And that person is telling me, wow, really go by your values, not by your mental strength of setting more goals and achieving more goals and ticking more things off, but really go back to the heart of yourself and build from there. So that means my goals have to involve mental health, physical health, emotional health, brain training, breathing, what am I eating, how am I sleeping, have I got the ability to love and be open to receiving, to make this a whole person who is going to shine a whole lot brighter than just an achievement junkie who just loves to set goals and go and get them. So think about your top 3 values. We always write them down. Mine are always here on a yellow sticky note. They are on my computer. They are on my car dashboard. They are on the mirror. And they're the boss, right? They are home plate. So if you don't have them and you can't see them, how are you making your decisions? Are your decisions really in alignment with your own set of values? So most people say to me, oh, as soon as I know my values, I feel secure, I feel safe. The things that I'm going to put on my to-do list today are going to bring me back home. They're going to fuel my confidence, and they're going to give me the energy that I need. So coaching a lot of elite athletes, coaching a lot of CEOs, we always go back to the values. And this is about mastering the basics. This is not about getting really fancy. When we master the basics and we have a home base to go to all the time, that's how we can build our future. That's how we shape our future. We shape our future by knowing what our true core values are. I think what a lot of people do is they go and set all these goals and create these visions without no consideration for their own set of values. So my invitation to you is to really stop and think about what your values are, to write them down. They're all in my book, The Life Plan, or you can email me to get a copy of the values game. That's no problem at all. So they simplify our decision making. They act as our compass. They put us on course every single day, and they are the foundation of your life. And these are the powerful tools of high-performing people that is so simple and easy and effortless if we would just take the time to actually do them. So that's how we start. They are the decision-making tool for you. They're the base of your emotional intelligence. And most importantly, let's put them somewhere where you can see them each and every day, up on that wall. The second part to building your future vision is to get back into the driver's seat and touch base with yourself. So last year in COVID, we were all home. We're still home quite a bit for a lot of people. We go to the bathroom 5 or 6 times a day. How many times do you actually look up and look in the mirror and have a conversation with your best friend, which is yourself? How many people last year just rushed around in their houses from that room to the next room to the next room, carrying their laptop, not connecting with their true powerful self? And we see it with all athletes, don't we? That they approach the mirror, they want to connect with themselves, they want to train the brain in the mirror and reaffirm things for themselves. So have that conversation. Don't be afraid to go to the mirror, to look up, to connect back with yourself, to touch base, give yourself the high five in the mirror, give yourself the hug if you need the hug. But we are our own best friend. And if you're building a life plan and a career plan and you want to move forward, you have to take this amazing person on board, which is your best friend, which is yourself. And what we find is people have got their inner critic. They sabotage themselves all the time because they're not connected with their true self. I'm sure many of you will feel like that. So retraining the brain, going back to the mirror, telling yourself you can do this, you've got this. How do I want to feel this year? Light, vibrant, energetic, training the brain, getting it moving, and then we can start to build. As you're building your life plan, also, we want to simplify and get rid of the clutter and the drainers. So I think it's really important to think, how can you simplify life? And last year was a really great test on how can we simplify our life? What are the habits, the routines, the rituals that you're doing that could simplify your life? I think what we do is we tend to really overcomplicate situations. We overanalyze, we overcommit, we overthink things. Is to simplify everything back to what's best for you. So you can type in the chat here, which area in life do you find the most draining? Is it your environment? Is it clean? Is it up to date? Is the wardrobe, is the car up to date? Is everything in order? Excuse me. Our finances, where are they sitting? Are they all up to date? Are they in order? Do you have an incredible plan where you're touching them once a month and you're understanding them and you have a financial plan moving forward, or an automatic savings plan? Are your relationships clean and tidy? Are you really great at forgiveness and emailing people back and returning phone calls and making requests rather than complaining? Our health and well-being, is that simple, or is it not? Is it just too complicated for you? Our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And are we not having enough fun? Are we not creating fun? So what we find is when people want to go and build, a future and set goals and do a vision and a life plan and a vision board, is we've got to clean out the clutter first. So it's a really wonderful invitation is to think about last year, what happened in the house? Can we clean it out? What happened to our finances? Can we clean them out? Can we get all up to date? Because how will you feel if you go forward and do some planning with all of that stuff up to date? So we want to declutter. We want to simplify as much as we possibly can so that we can move forward and build with clarity and purpose and direction without any of that junk hanging around behind us. I think it's also important to think of yourself as the asset and to set some really nice boundaries to protect yourself. What I find is people are not very good to saying no. They're FOMO, fear of missing out. I am a bit of a JOMO, I have to say, joy of missing out. I have no problem in not going to a function, to a dinner, missing out on anything, to protect my health as much as possible. So think about what you're doing at the moment around the boundaries that you set for yourself. A lot of people last year, I'd love to focus on tech boundaries, because a lot of people need to have a little bit of a reset on their technology boundaries. Where are you taking the laptop to bed, the phone to bed? Are we scrolling while we're in bed and firing up the neural pathway in the brain that is for addiction? So we have a very simple rule, which is 8 p.m. all phones away, laptops are away. It's time for the brain to calm down. We never sleep with the phone in the bedroom. None of my clients do. We actually have an alarm clock, old-fashioned alarm clock, and the phones are in the ensuite or in the kitchen. So think about, what are you doing to protect the asset? You're in your bedroom, the most important sanctuary in the house, where sleep is a dishwasher for your brain. Sleep is what makes you feel energetic. What are you doing that's sabotaging your sleep? Because most people want to feel more energetic, but what they're not doing is putting a boundary around the bedroom, around sleep, around what's most important to them. So my invitation to you is to think about how you're using technology, what bad habits you actually got into last year, and think about what you would love to reset for 2021 that's going to allow you to be a far more efficient, energetic, and feel like you have some space in your life because you're not fully attached to the phone. So the boundaries, type in the chat where you think you need them. Julia said environment. And I think a lot of people, and I know for myself, I have redone this house a few times, and each time I've done it, I've simplified it even more. I've decluttered even more. I've brought in as much white as I can so that I can feel the most nurtured and calm and confident in the house. Where do you need to set some boundaries? And thirdly, I think it's really important to create some really nice vision. So when you're doing a life plan, I want you to write down how old you'll be in 3 years' time. So how old you'll be, how old maybe your partner may be, how old maybe your children may be, or your dog or your parents may be, because they often become our responsibility. So write in the chat if you feel up to it, how old you'll be in 3 years' time. And it's really nice to own that. So for me, I'll be 53, Lani 55, fantastic. 43, Julia, wonderful. So think about your 3-year-older self and think about how you would love to feel in 3 years' time. Matthew McConaughey said in his Oscar speech, I always want to look up to my older self, the role model of myself. It's a fantastic speech if you want to go and Google it. Matthew McConaughey's Oscar speech. And he says, I want something to look up to, someone to love, and something to reach and aim for, which is my older self, the role model, which I will never catch because it's the better version of ourself. So if you think in 3 years' time how you want to feel, that should determine what you want to do today. So there's a reason, there's a purpose today of why you're doing yoga. Or, my 20-year-old self is 70, is saying, please go to yoga today. Because if you've got 20 years of yoga under your belt at 70, you're going to be far more agile than if you hadn't done it. My 70-year-old self is saying, have a couple of golf lessons now. That's fantastic because, I'd like to play golf at 70, but not now. I don't have time now. I've got teenage kids and 2 businesses, and that's not going to happen. But it's about investing into some of those little skills that you want further down the track. So when we build a life plan with people, We are always doing a 20-year plan, which sounds a little bit overwhelming, but it's not that bad. It's really about writing your age down on a piece of paper for the next 20 years. So I invite you to really do that and see what it looks like. Is, you know, Elizabeth, you'd write 37, 38, 39, all the way down to 20 years. And you'd write what year that's going to happen in. And then you can sit and you think about, okay, is there any study that I might want to do? What am I curious about? What am I interested in? So where do I want to travel? What life experiences do I want? What do I want my body to be able to do? And then you can start to really populate what that might look like moving forward. And this is what gets everyone really excited, is when they actually see 20 more years in front of them, it gives us perspective that we don't have to do absolutely everything today or this year. We've got 20 years to pace ourselves to not have to burn out this year. So it acts as a way of having perspective. It also acts as a really great planning tool. And the other part that it does is when you record everything that happens each year, you look back at it and you can actually see all the things that you did do. So I can look back over the last 10 years and there's a bullet point list of absolutely everything I did, my husband did, my kids did, when their braces came on and off, and when they got a job, and when they broke their arm. It's all in this one piece of paper, which is a spreadsheet. So creating a life plan with clients is a spreadsheet, basically, where we look at the next 20 years and we get the brain to really open up. We don't think about this year. We think about 20 years. We think about, why would I do something this year? How is that going to benefit me in the next 20 years? It gives it much more depth, much more purpose, much more meaning when we do this. So if we just think of 2024, which is how old you'll be in 3 years, it's about thinking, okay, in 2024, I'm going to control the controllables from here on end. Let's not think about all the things we can't control. I always, every day last year, said, what is the gift today? And how can I control the controllables? So this year, 21, how can I control the controllables? All the things for my values are within my control. My mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, my spiritual health, the way that I show up with energy, my achievements, my achievement list. You know, did you do some meditation today? Did you do some breathing today so that you're not burnt out? All of those kind of things. Did you do your networking today? Whatever it might be on the list. It gives a lot more depth and a lot more purpose when we think of it for 3 years strategy down the track. So if we invest in a little bit of networking now, and we do that every year for the next 20 years, imagine the web that you're going to have. Imagine how you're going to be able to secure and look after yourself moving forward. So there's a fantastic book out there called The 100-Year Life in the US. And that's all about, we're living much longer because the pharmaceutical companies are really great at keeping us alive a lot longer. So because we're living longer, we need 3 things. We need much better health, because if you're going to be alive now into your 90s, you want to have that quality of life. So whatever we're doing now in our 30s and our 40s and our 50s for our health will have a flow-on effect to the second part of our life. We also need more money. So our financial strategy has to be really sound to keep us moving forward down the track and being able to afford things. And the third thing is network. We really want to think about the more people that we have in our network further down the track, the more opportunities are going to come our way. So think about your 3-year vision and where you want to be in 3 years' time. It's really nice then to think about, you know, what could I do to build a vision board to make that happen? On my website, there is a free printable download vision board kit, which I actually made in COVID because a lot of people said, I don't know where to start. So there's a how-to, all of the words are there for you just to print and cut out, and all you need to do is find some pictures. There's mine on there. You'll see it's got a lot of different areas on it, but when your brain can look and see where you want it to go, that's your inspiration, that's your motivation, and that's appealing to yourself. If you want a healthy body, put up healthy pictures. Remind your brain of where you want it to go. Remind yourself of who the role models are. Remind yourself of where you want to take your business. Remind yourself of the life and experiences that you want in the foreseeable future, because we will get back to traveling the globe, and we will get back to seeing people. And that brings you down then to some goal setting, and to think about, what do I actually want between now and Christmas? So you can type in the chat, your biggest, hairiest goal between now and Christmas is, where do you want your career to be by Christmas Day? Where do you want your health to be by Christmas Day? Or some of your relationships to be by Christmas Day? And where do you want your money to be by Christmas Day? And this is super exciting. We need to set goals, because the brain needs a map. And when the brain has a map, it's got something to do every day when it wakes up. If we haven't done the vision, and we haven't done the goals, and we haven't really got a life plan journey for ourselves, then we find that we feel like we're on the treadmill of life every day. It's the same old, same old. We're getting up, we're doing the same things every day. So setting some really fun, great goals. Here's a little vision of my 20-year plan. As you can see, it's just got the years down the side, and then how old we are and what's happening with all of us. And that goes for 20 years, and it goes for another 20 years. So what an incredible document to give to yourself, and to remember where you've come from, but also to plan where you're going, which is super exciting. And I just wanted to finish with happiness, because I think happiness is really misunderstood. That the science of happiness is 50% of your happiness comes from your genetic makeup. You're the glass half full, or you're the glass half empty type of person. We all know which one we are, one or the other. Then 10% is external circumstances, which means, we got the nice car, it made us really happy. We bought the new watch, that made us really happy, but probably for a week. We went on that nice holiday, and a week after we got back, that feeling is gone. So it's really, really mind-blowing to know that 40% of your happiness comes from intentional activity, which means how you use and structure your day. Your habits, your routines, your rituals will determine whether you feel happy most of the day. So think about, what are your habits? What are your routines? What are your rituals? And these 5 things, gratitude, kindness, empathy, journaling, and affirmations, lay at the base of intentional living. And there's been a lot of studies. You can Google the science of happiness. They've done a lot of studies which show that people who have a regular gratitude practice, that practice kindness rather than judgment, that have empathy for other people as well as themselves, who journal, who actually write about their amazing life and the struggles that they may have, and who reaffirm constantly where they want to be and how they want to get there, have a much deeper sense of fulfillment in life rather than just that shallow achievement. There's a depth to them, there's a joy to them, there's a lot more happiness to them, because they have these as a part of their intentional practices. So whose responsibility is it? I always say it is really our own. We are the asset. Nobody is going to do that for us. So care for ourselves, love ourselves, have a plan for ourselves. Don't just think that that plan is going to come to your front door on a silver platter. It's about sitting down with that cup of tea and thinking about, where do I want to drive my car? Where do I want my life to go? How do I want to feel? So make a decision now of one thing that you've been putting off that you need to do right now. And write it in the chat if you like. But think about, what's one decision now that I need to make to move my life forward, to develop a bit of a plan for myself, to work on the business of you, to elevate yourself and take some really, really wonderful action. So Julia, I'd just like to welcome you back into the room and just have a little bit of if anyone's got any questions, to pop them in the chat. I'm really happy to answer them. But over the last 20 years, really working with people, we found that people who plan in decades, and this is my favorite quote, plan in decades, think in years, work in months so you can live in days, is to open the brain up to think about the long-term strategy, not just the short-term burn and churn, but to really think a lot bigger than what we're normally used to.